Hello, World Wide Web. This is James, your favorite stock analyst, sticker picker amateur hour. We are evaluating one Bitcoin mining company after another. If you think Bitcoin is not going back to 60,000, then you're going to find yourself in a spot where you can win some good money on these Bitcoin mining companies. They have a Bitcoin computer which costs $500 to $1,000. They can plug it in and make $4 a month right now for having it plugged in. It costs about $12 worth of electricity for them to plug it in. You can go on YouTube and learn of all the people who have tried it. You can learn about the people that build their own water wheels with alternators to pay for it. You can learn about the solar panel people who has two of them on his kitchen shelf, making him $8 a month. It's an industry that was extremely profitable in 2001. Bitcoin hit $60,000, and it became worth it to plug one in for just a short time. Everybody bought these computers like crazy and plugged them in, hoping Bitcoin was going to go to $250,000 a coin. It didn't. It went back down to 20,000. If you think it's not going back to 60 in the next 3 or 4 months, some of these companies are so done and so overblown. And they had a great 2021. They did really well because they were getting the 60,000 of Bitcoin, and all they had to do was, get a bunch of these things with stockholder money and then plug them in, and it was instant revenue and it was instant profit until the power bills came. There is a free power crowd out there, and that free power crowd is able to take advantage. This one's called RIOT Platforms. They are a Bitcoin miner. I checked my other videos. I've just reviewed 4 or 5 of them. Now I'm mostly getting to the miners themselves. These people in 1 year went down 88%. You can see where this is going. They're still holding at $8.63 a share, which is fascinating to me because the ones I just reviewed were much, much less. The 5-year chart tells the story. You have a story of a company that is trying to mine and is doing a very, like, stock's not doing anything. There's no growth in this company whatsoever. I'm guessing because either they have no revenue or they have a small source of free power that's not growing in power. So therefore they can't plug more machines in. So therefore their revenue can't grow. So therefore their stock isn't going up. And then all of a sudden 2001 hits, and it's the same story over and over again. It's $60,000. So everything they're mining triples. For starters, for seconders, it's affordable to plug these things in all of a sudden. You can just buy a bunch of computers and plug them in. But then after you make that huge investment on computers, the price of Bitcoin crumbles down to 20,000 a share, or 20,000 a coin. So now you're in this position here where your stock that was worth over $60 at the peak is now worth $8. This company seems to be doing better with their stock price than most, so maybe they're less diluted. We're going to take a look at that. All the same old news. Let's start out with an annual income statement so we can guess at what happened with this company. We start out with actual revenue. Look who's making $8 million in 2018 mining Bitcoin in revenue. They're actually got some machines plugged in and they're doing it. They lost $58 million. Probably stockholder money, or they took that money and bought more machines and put it back into the company. Who knows? But the very next year they come back with less revenue than they did the year before, actually less of a loss too. They might be in a free power situation right here. This is because Bitcoin wasn't that pricey back then, so they might actually be using free power and reinvesting in their company. They might have bought a water wheel or some solar panels or something. They might have used cash for it so that they owned it, and they probably used their IPO money to do so. So they started out as a $12 million company. They're losing $14 million on paper, but this loss might be a temporary loss. They might end up, a decent company one day once the investment stage is over. 2021 happened, and all of a sudden you have a massive boost in revenue. The $60,000 a coin Bitcoin took over. You could just plug them in and make money. I'm taking a wild guess to get it to go from 12 to 213 is number one, you plugged in a lot more boxes. You plugged them in immediately. You lost just a little bit of money, which actually I'm really impressed by. Um, how did they do this exactly? I don't know. It's like maybe this wasn't their power capacity. They were just maybe didn't have that many computers at the time. But here's where they went and they bought all their computers. They bought a ton of them. They plugged them in to free power for the most part. They did pretty darn well. Look at this. They only lost $15 million. Compare that to the other miners. These people had a free power source that was big enough to sustain something like this. And let's keep a note that this company can probably run at $60,000 Bitcoin. They can probably do $200 million worth a month of mining without losing money. I'll bet you this went to a reinvestment. And yeah, it did. Bitcoin, look, they rose. They actually got a rise year over year from 2021 to 2022. And that's as Bitcoin's falling from 60,000 to 40,000 to 30,000. They went out and bought so many damn computers and just plugged them into the wall because they decided that power was about the same cost as their free power, just buying power, because you have to buy the land, you have to buy the windmill, you have to buy the solar panels. So they decided, just like all these other companies, let's just plug them in. So they lose $509 million. So they took all of this year's money and they reinvested it. That's what I'm guessing. They took all of this year's money and reinvested in the company. They bought a ton more computers, and all of a sudden, the Bitcoin became worth much less, and they were just plugging them in. So it was like the stupidest thing in the world you could ever do. They lost $500 million in 1 year. They actually rose the revenue up as they did it. The loss was probably a true loss. It was probably an electrical loss. I don't think we're going to see an asset boost in 2022. I could be wrong. But let's take a look at their balance sheet. You can see where this is headed. Let's take a look quarterly. We'll take a sneak peek. They have an incredible amount of computers right now. They're all generating about $4 a month each. They did okay for this quarter. It's like they turned the power off and went right back to their original source, maybe. Maybe this is a smart company. They made money in March. Shocking. They threw it all on June. A big loss, $52 million. You know, they might have just gone out and bought another power grid of their own or bought more solar panels with this money. Let's assume that they did. We'll probably see a spike in assets for June of 2022. We're going to take a look at that. But look at this. They went back to $46 million in revenue, and they only lost $36 million. This loss, if they were buying power, would be extraordinary. It would have been down to here. So it's almost like they're getting their power for free at this level now, at $46 million a quarter. And here they come back and repeat it. They do $60 million a quarter, and they got pounded on the balance sheet for another $155. I don't think they were dumb enough to go and plug the boxes back in. That wouldn't have made sense. I think this is another reinvestment in another power grid that we're going to see below. So we might be looking at a smarter company. We might be looking at a company that has a shit ton of boxes and insists on a free power source, and they continually buy it with cash, probably by diluting themselves or running up a debt. We're going to find out real quick. Their operating expenses, $91 million a year. Their revenue is going to be about $240 at current pace. And I don't think this is their current pace of their loss. I think they can probably do a good thing. They can be a decent company. They're buying themselves power grids with probably investor cash, is my guess, or debt. We're going to find out. The balance sheet, wow, stable Mabel. Oh, well, let's look at it annually. Here's my prediction coming true. 2018, no assets. 2019, no assets. 2020, let's buy some computers. They got some computers in stock. 2021, they got an absolute shit ton in stock. They didn't add more to do good in 2022. It looks like they lost computers. Looks like my prediction was not true. Maybe it was just a flat true loss and that money never went anywhere. How did they achieve their 2022 revenue numbers on less assets? That's the question. Now I want to know how they rose this in a diminishing Bitcoin market. How did they rise their assets? Well, they lost all this money. Maybe they spent cash on something and just used cash to, well, cash is an asset. Well, they actually lost assets. So they're getting beat up in some regard. They went from, they lost 200 million in assets year over year, and then they threw up a $500 million loss in a year and in a quarter. It all came down to one quarter. It looks like they're jockeying to be a company again. They're trying, it's like they realize the price of Bitcoin is what it is, and they've decided, let's try to make money at that level. Wherever it was around September is when they seemed to have an intelligent profile on, let's make this company smaller, let's make it more streamlined. 91 million is the operating cost. Let's see how much cash they have. They still have a ton of computers. They didn't go selling them off. This is quarterly. They still have a ton of computers. They've hung on to them all year long. They're not liquidating them. They're not buying more on credit. Let that be noted. If anything, they haven't added anything to their credit cards year over year. I'm starting to like these people. We wanted to see how much cash they have left, and they have $230 million. Now, they also have 166 million shares outstanding. Now, there's a lot of stuff this company can do. I'm kind of interested. They seem to be in the business of using stockholder money to buy a power grid and then just plug in Bitcoin machines. They seem to have an awful lot of Bitcoin machines. I would say it might be able to maintain what it does. Like its revenue might be leveled to some degree if they're using stockholder money to power the power grid to get the free. See, if their business model is smart, it's we're going to buy free power and then we're going to plug in machines. And we're going to take what we can get and it's going to be profit. And if that's their business model, smart people. The problem is the investor is getting hammered time and time again because of dilution. This probably was just a dilution to death. They probably started out, I think every one of these little markers that you see is a dilution. I might be wrong. Usually when you see this many of them, that's 5 of them so far. And everyone knows there's one coming in the future because they're running out of money. But it looks like they can, September of 2022 for the whole quarter, they threw up $46 million and only lost 36. So maybe they're trying to buy another grid or attempting to buy another grid and it looked like they were getting closer. And then December and shit just didn't work out the same, or maybe they're buying another grid. But if you buy stuff with money that you made quarter over quarter, your asset line would have gone up. So no, they just lost money again. This was a true loss on paper. They didn't pay off debt. They didn't add an asset. They literally lost this much more money for running the thing. I don't know, maybe a big monthly payment came due on their solar panels, or maybe they get 3 months of no payments, and then they make a payment, and then they make 3 months of no pay. Maybe they have a weird finance agreement, or maybe they bought a power grid. There's confusion. I'd look into this one, though. It looks like, honestly, it could stable out at today's Bitcoin price. It looks like they might have just diluted the hell out of the stockholder. They might actually be a profitable company if they can somehow have gotten free power. And it looks like, by the looks of this, it's moving in that direction. Like, hi, we just bought free power, and then, hi, we have free power. And somehow they're still losing money on that. Maybe they're still paying for that free power or buying the land for it or something. But this yellow line could vanish all of a sudden, like, and they could end up a $240 million a year company that makes a profit. It won't be a big profit. I'm sure they'll have some expense. Let's look at what that is. Well, it's $168 million in debt they have. 168 million in debt and about a 240 in revenue is what they're tracking. So their debt and their revenue are the same. They can't live. They have to dilute themselves again. They've done it 5 times already. 863 a share. I say they dilute themselves again. I think, well, we're going to have to do the math with Bitcoin coming up 20% in the last week. That's going to help their earnings a little bit, as it's going to help out the final month of their earnings. 166 million out shares. They might be able to dilute themselves one more time, maybe 2 more times. Take this thing down to $5, then take it down to 250. Are they going to have to do that in order to pay for whatever they just bought to get I think they're in the free power model. They're not plugging stuff in. Some of these farms are just like, oh, goody, we're all going to get rich, and they just plugged it in. And this one didn't seem to do that. This one seemed to go out and buy another grid and stay smart. I think this one's a little scary. I wouldn't short this or do puts on it necessarily, unless for the dilution factor being necessary. And how necessary is it? They have $230 million. I don't know. This could go either way. If they have to lose another 155 and a quarter, well, clearly all that money is going to be gone. Then they have to dilute themselves. But if this loss instantly turns into this loss, they don't have to dilute themselves. So if they don't have a payment due, or they're done with their new power infrastructure for the future, a little bit of this company, and being a small company with a power grid that they stuck the investor to pay for, so they could earn nothing in earnings per share or barely in earnings per share forever. Maybe they just want to be a 200 million a year company. Maybe that's the end plan. And then hopefully Bitcoin goes up and things grow, and that would be intelligent for them. That'd be an intelligent business plan. I think this is the smartest miner that I've evaluated so far. I think that's why it's worth almost $9 a share, even with that many shares out there, is they've shown the propensity to do this the right way, and that's beat the stockholder up out of everything they got, take all the stockholder money, buy power grids, get a zero power situation, which clearly they've pulled off in 2022 or darn near it. I still understand they have tons of expenses and they've just experienced a lot of trauma. March of 2022, they actually made money. Here they almost made money. So they're back to the point where they can almost make money, and they're using the investor to beat them up, buy a power grid, and then make money. And it's screwing you over as an investor every single time they do it. But this is their business plan. It's screw the investor over, take the money, buy a power grid, and then have a profitable end result by plugging in machines. They don't care what price Bitcoin is at. It's free money if it's free power. And buying the computer, is that worth it? I don't know. Maybe they found a cheap way to make their computer or something. You seem to be this close in the vicinity of profitable as a miner is so impressive. Go look at the other miners. These people are going the other direction. They're not plugging in their units. They're using stockholder money. The rest of them are liquefying their stock also. But this one's got more of a chance than most. Their plan is clearly stock dilution. You see all these little marks. They've already screwed you over 5 times. How soon do they have to screw you over again? I have no idea. Um, it's going to keep falling in half, and then it's going to fall in half at least a couple more times. I think their plan is to get small enough to run at these levels. Hopefully, it won't crash down to 10,000 a Bitcoin. That'll be their next problem. And if it goes back to 40,000 or something, then they're really going to look nice. Then they're going to look like geniuses that bought a power grid and have a business. So, Riot is my most bullish farmer of Bitcoin so far, but the price reflects it. The price reflects it. These people are taking it out on the stockholder. It might be a good one to short just for or to put options on just for dilution purposes. But I don't know if Bitcoin goes back to $30,000, $40,000. These people are doing it more right than anybody. If they had already beat up the stockholder previously and then they come out with a positive PE, I don't know. Does the stock go up? It could. This thing could actually end up going up. Those ones that would be the scariest one to do a short on. But I would definitely do put options on it. Maybe some long-term ones, 3 months or something, or 4 months. Just count on a dilution coming soon. You'll get it. You can see another one in the forecast. You should be able to see one. They seem to happen on a regular basis, somewhere around once a year. So they just did one, so maybe they have a year to go. Or maybe the next one's not going to be till the end of 2023. And you'll know then what Bitcoin's worth. But I almost wouldn't touch this one. It looks like it's too scary to touch. It looks like they have more brains in their head than all the other farmers. And they still have a stock price that they could liquefy and they could continue onwards for another year or two. And they could get rid of operating costs and cut staff. Where are they located at? That might be important. Oh, they're in the United States, in Colorado. 489 employees. They look like they're pretty slim and trim right now. They could probably get rid of half of them, let's just say. Maybe a third of them. Maybe they've already gone down that route. I don't know. My most optimistic Bitcoin farming company. I hope you enjoyed the video. And other ones to come. Have a